The concept for the village has always been there. It started as a little seed of ingenuity back in residency when I was learning about how we care for patients and what the current healthcare model looks like. The intention is really to fill that gap with the way the healthcare system is set up and with the third-party payer system and how all of these ancillary services like pelvic floor physical therapy, acupuncture, lactation services, the reimbursement system makes it very difficult to actually utilize those resources in the healthcare setting. The whole idea here was to pull all of the non-medical related stuff out of the medical office and put it in a place where women could come and have the safety and the comfort of being around one another, learning from each other, teaching each other, finding that community and support, because that's the biggest gap that we have right now in terms of our moms and why they're struggling so hard. They just don't feel supported. What they needed wasn't medicine, they needed support. There really was a revelation at some point where pregnancy isn't a medical condition, it's a transition of life, or this term that's really starting to become very prominent, which is matrescence. I came into practice and I was dealing with all these beautiful, wonderful births with these women who were very brilliant and capable, and seeing the emotional whiplash that they would go through when they became new moms really identified very quickly for me that my role in their healthcare really was very limited from a medical standpoint. It became very clear very quickly that there was a huge deficit that I myself could not fill because I had not been trained to meet all of those other needs. I started playing what I like to call mommy matchmaker. I'd find two patients that had similar stories. I'd try to connect them. Of course, everyone gave me permission to do so, and just started encouraging people to try to meet up with each other. They were literally in the same boat as each other. The idea was for them to be able to find the paddle together and be able to weather the storm. The biggest component to this happened when I finally made the transition to an educational model in January of 2023, at which time we started routinely integrating prenatal classes, which were all taught by me. I really looked at that as a chance to start focusing more on educating women about what was happening in their bodies and why, and giving them the pieces of information and the tools that they would need to go into labor confident and prepared so that they're not showing up and making decisions based out of fear or anxiety. The shift was felt very, very quickly. I started seeing patients coming in to labor and nurses telling me, your patients show up and they're not fearful, they're not scared, they're prepared. And that really, really goes a long way. In a post-pandemic world, we've really lost the concept of third spaces. We talk about the home and the work environment being your first and second space, but we don't really have those third spaces anymore where we go to socialize. We're spending a lot more time in our homes. We're not outside. We're not going to the movies. We're not going to the bowling alley. We're not going to the mall on the weekend to just walk around and be around other people. That's where humanity happens. We're in a boom of AI, but AI is never going to replace the value of human touch. That's not something you can ever recreate. It was always very intentional in my mind that to build something like this couldn't just be a digital platform. There had to be a physical location attached to it so that people could quite literally come and learn from one another. A beautiful thing that I've observed in my prenatal classes is I get someone who's on baby number 2 or even baby number 3, and it's really fun to see them naturally take the role of the expert. I've been through this and I can speak to it from a little experience. And many times those patients that choose to take classes are ones that have had prior birth trauma. And you can see that it's a very healing process for them. Getting to process their own experience and then use that to share wisdom with others is incredibly rewarding for people. I always have said that the dream would be to have a one-stop shop where patients are able to come for all of their pregnancy-related needs. We'd have nutrition, pelvic floor physical therapy, lactation, acupuncture, chiropractic services, movement-based guidance and classes to coach them for labor so that they're showing up and feeling prepared and they have agency over their medical decision-making. It's been a really actually very cool evolution of how we've gotten to where we are today, and we're still evolving. It's constantly a living, breathing, dynamic model of care because we're gonna adapt to what our patients need.